So today we're going to talk about the CAE application, the different parts to the application, and the submission cycle, and the type, what kind of evidence you need to supply for each of these required parts to the CAE. Stephen, if you would monitor the chat and let me know when there are any questions, I can address them as we go. We also have a break built into this. I believe we are recording, are we not?
Yes, we are recording.
We are recording, and so we will make this workshop available on our website, the insight.net website, eventually to be replaced with a narrated PowerPoint, so you can just pick whatever it is you want to know about. So today we're going to talk about the community, how to get started with the CAE, and some of the updates that have happened to the CAE over the past year, including the submission cycles and the application process and timeline. So just as a brief overview, there's the Centers of Academic Excellence community, and the CAE itself is sponsored by the NSA, the National Security Agency, and several federal partners, which are listed in this slide. So National Science Foundation, FBI, US Cyber Command, and some of these other ones. Well, actually, all of these other ones. And so the mission of the CAE program is to create and manage a collaborative cybersecurity educational program with community colleges and universities. And basically what it comes down to is we're trying to build the workforce in cybersecurity, a quality workforce that can meet the needs of the United States. And these are the values associated with the CAE on your screen now. So there are 3 designations available: the Cyber Defense Education, the CAER, which is the research, cyber research, and cyber operations. The largest group is Cyber Defense Education. I believe there are 257 institutions. I may have that number wrong, but somewhere around there that have the CAE CDE. And then a smaller, I think with the R's, I think there's about 80 or so. And then cyber ops, I believe, is around 25. So we're going to focus on the CAE CDE today, which I'm expecting is what most people are here about. Okay. If you're a brand new school and you want to get started, or even if you're not, the first place to go is to fill out the CAE program applicant checklist that is located at caecommunity.org. caecommunity.org is the CAE community webpage. You can go there to find out information about events and other things, but there's also resources listed there. And one of the resources is the checklist. When you fill out the checklist, you will then be placed in application assistance or program development, depending upon the maturity of the program that you have at your school, and also whether that program needs some additional courses or things to meet the CAE requirements. Insight.net is the NSF center that I am the PI for. We also are hosting materials there, including this workshop. So if you go to insight.net, on the front page, there's a box that says CAE resources. There you can watch the videos, and we have some other materials there that you can use. By the way, I think I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Corrine Sandy, and I'm the director for the CAE National Resource Center that runs the candidates program for the CAE. And so that's why I'm doing this workshop. I skipped that part. Okay. So here is a screenshot of where the application checklist is on the CAE community website. So it's under About Us, the CAEC program office, and then the checklist where this big arrow is. Here's where information about the candidates program is right now, and that's, you'll see we have this big box, Centers of Academic Excellence. We also have it under resources, but CAE designation includes, like Yair has several useful tools he developed as he went through the CAE that we have posted there, and things that can help you with your application. So as I said previously, there are two categories: program development and application assistance. Program development is for colleges that are assessed to be within, require more than 6 months to be ready for designation. These colleges are assigned an advisor, access to workshops and seminars, and invited to programs and events hosted by the CAE community. The vast majority of the people that fill out the checklist are placed in application assistance. Those colleges are assigned a mentor, and the same thing, you're invited to programs and events hosted by the community, and you have access to the resources offered by the program office. For instance, the CAE Symposium, they have that every year. Sometimes they do invite the candidate schools also. I'm not sure if they're doing that this year, but that would be an example of event that you would be invited to as a candidate school. Okay. Okay, the submission cycle. So prior to this year, colleges would basically create an account in the tool and would work on their application and then submit it. And as long as they submitted it by one date in the year, or it was increased to 2, they were okay. Now what we're trying to do is speed up the amount, speed up the whole process, including how long it takes for college to learn if they received their designation or not. And so this is the application assistance cycle 1. So colleges that have been assigned to application assistance, this is the first cycle. I should tell you right now we have about 25 colleges that are piloting the new tool. Yair here, who's on our call, he was the first one to push the button for the first half. And so we're testing everything to make sure that when the colleges start the cycles that hopefully you're not going to run into any issues. So cycle 1 on October 15th, colleges that have been put into cycle 1 will be assigned an advisor or mentor and tool access. So in other words, you will either go and create an account in the new tool, or we will create them for you. We are still trying to work that part out. This is Thursday. So you will be receiving directions from Stephen Troop, who is also on this call, on what steps to take. And there are 41 colleges that are in cycle 1. And so you have from October 15th to December 15th to get all of your materials into the tool for the first part of the CAE, and that is the program of study validation. December 15th, you must be done by December 15th. At that point, we will assign a pre-submission reviewer to review your application and give you feedback. After that, you do your final submission. At that point, you're submitting for the program of study. You will receive, this is January 1st, you will receive feedback from the pre-submission reviewer and have a chance to make those corrections. And I guess I got this a little mixed up. January 15th would be your final deadline. Okay, but what this really comes down to is you must have all your information in by December 15th in order for all this other stuff to happen. Are there any questions about any of this? I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the
Hey, Corinne, this is Mike Morris, WGU. Yeah, I think there's several of us are asking questions about how do we find out what cycle we're in?
You should, Tasha has notified, I believe, the first 4 cycles. So you should have received an email notifying you of which cycle you're in. Remember, in order for any of this to happen, you must have filled out the checklist.
Remind me what school you're at, Mike.
Western Governors.
Okay, I'll check on that.
Okay, let's see, do we have any other? I complete a checklist. How do you know if you're in cycle 1? Okay, you would have received notification. What happens if a school misses a deadline? They are reassigned to the last cycle. Remember, there are 8 cycles in a year. If cycle 1, if you miss the deadline, then you would be put in where the next space is available, and that would be probably cycle 8, which is a year out. So, Tasha, hopefully you're taking note of the people that are saying they did not get notified. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going here. Let's see, are there any other questions? One new message. This all applies to designation rather than redesignation, correct? There are 25 redesignating schools in cycle 1, so you've been assigned to a cycle, and 16 new schools in cycle 1. Okay, so now I'm going to move on. For school with 2 programs of study, do they enter both in the same cycle? I'm going to address more than one program of study as we go on. So I'm going to move on now. Okay, so here's the cycle. This is cycle 1. Okay, now I gotta, what's happening here? Okay, so this picture just pretty much spells it out again. So these are the steps that go through the first half of the CAE. So the school submits a checklist, we assign a mentor. Application assistance is the mentor working with you to get all of your materials, and then the intent to apply, and Wacom endorses your application as part of this process. In other words, if you try to apply without our endorsement, it will be rejected. Now, a new thing, especially for you redesignating schools that haven't experienced this, there will be a committee of peers that will evaluate the applications. The POC for that application must appear in front of this committee to answer any questions. You'll be sent the questions ahead of time. For the program of study, this committee is virtual, so it's like a Zoom meeting. After the committee has asked the questions and you've answered them, the decision will be made then, and the committee's not making the decision, they're making a recommendation to the program office at the NSA, who will make the final decision. At that point, your program of study would be validated, and you have completed the first half toward the CAE. As you can see from these arrows, you have options: submit another program of study, proceed to the designation, or hold only the program of study validation. So there are colleges that are small or they don't have a lot of resources, but still have a really good program. So this would be an opportunity for you to validate your program. And, so in other words, your academic program has met the standards for the curriculum standards that apply to the CAE, and basically that's where you stop, and you can utilize that to market your program and other things. So this is a new thing. It's option for a college that doesn't want to do the CAE but still has an excellent program. Okay, so that's the program of study, the steps to the program of study. Okay, oh, hang on a second. All right, somehow I got this on my screen. Okay, here is the CAE Application Assistance Cycle 1. These are for colleges that have validated their program of study. So you passed. You are now eligible to apply for the CAE. It's basically the same steps, but you will note it's a pretty short time frame. And so what's expected is after you submit the program of study validation and you're waiting for the committee to adjudicate it, you would start working on the CAE part and be ready to go when you have access to the CAE tab. Okay, and the only thing different in this other than really, I mean, it's the same thing. You have a pre-submission review, you get a chance to fix it. But the one thing that is different is that once you've submitted the CAE, the committees are going to meet regionally and you would be expected to appear in person at that committee. And so it's important that your college know that you're expected to travel to this location, which I don't know where they are, but most likely you're going to have to travel. Okay, so do I have any questions in here? I got a lot of questions in here. Should I just wait until let's see. Can there be more than just the POC on the peer assessment video review to answer questions? The peer assessment video review.
Yeah, Corrine, this is Karen.
Yeah.
I think he means during the in-person or what will be virtual now.
Virtual review, virtual.
Yeah,
Okay.
So my answer
Yes.
would be
Yes, you can bring your support people, you can,
yes.
or your dog or whatever you need. You can bring you can bring the team or whoever's been working on it. Okay. Is there any way to move to an earlier cycle? Yes. So we are keeping a wait list we've already had one college, I think, drop out of cycle 1. And if you're on the wait list, we can move you up. Okay. Is that still the case with COVID restrictions? The in-person one, we most likely, well, it's a timing thing, but there is a possibility the first one wouldn't be in person, depending on whatever happens. The CAE designation cycle to be back to back after the program. I mean, what if after the institute? Yes, you may do that. So no, you do not have to immediately go into the CAE. You do have to you should let us know that though. So you could be on a different cycle for the CAE. So the question here is, can I get the program of study validation and then wait to apply for the CAE? Yes, you can. Okay. So let's see if I can. Okay. So remember we looked at that other picture. That other picture ended right here. Okay, so now we're moving on to the CAE. You've got your program of study validation. You update your validation every 5 years. If you decide you're just going to hold on to that and not move on to the CAE. Otherwise, you proceed to the designation. And so it's the same thing, except you'll see in bold and underlined that candidates appear before the committee. The committee, remember, the committee is not going to anoint you a CAE at the meeting. They will recommend that you get the CAE, and the program management office will make the final determination. Okay. So this is just the whole picture. So this is everything you do to get the CAE. It's really the same thing repeated twice, one for the program of study, one for the CAE. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the two parts. So the first part, which everybody has to do, is the program of study validation. And you may opt to have multiple programs of study validated before pursuing the designation. So some colleges are going to validate 5 programs and then move on to the CAE. But you must have at least 1 validated program to be eligible to apply for the CAE. Once that program has been validated, the institution may pursue the CAE designation. And I just want to remind everybody, I'm on a little laptop in a car, so it's hard for me to address a lot of the things in the chat. I'm stopping occasionally, but I hope you understand. Let's see. And if this, I don't know, so far everything's working pretty good. Okay, here is a screenshot from the tool. We do have a 7-minute video recorded by the developer that is on the insight.net website that walks you through everything from beginning to end. So how to create, put in your institution details, where to do the program of study, and so on. This is just a screenshot of the tool. I had planned on demonstrating it also, but I think due to the limitations I'm under right now that I'm not going to do that. So for those of you that already have the CAE and are redesignating, you can see that this is quite a bit different from the old tool. And so basically you have an application, you fill out your institution details. These include details like your DUNS number, your tax ID number. These are all grant related things that they're asking for. I don't believe it's required that you answer that, but it makes it a lot easier to award grants to an institution. That's why it was included. Then after you do your institution details, you would move on to the program of study. The only tab that will be visible to you is the program of study tab. The CAE tab will appear once your program of study has been validated. Okay, so it looks like I've got some, okay, so there's no questions in here. All right. Okay, so I'll keep going. Okay.
There's one question from Russell.
Oh, what is it?
He asks, is it easier to apply for multiple programs of study before the CAE designation, or is it better for an institution to get the CAE designation first with 1 program of study and then add additional programs of study?
If it was me, I would do 1 program of study and then get the CAE. Also, you can be working on the CAE and, you know, start the next program of study. And the reason I'm saying this is because of the benefits you can gain from getting the CAE. So you would be eligible for grants that you're currently not eligible for. And that's not just the NSA grant. The CAE is also, the NSF looks at that also as a kind of evidence that you have a quality program. So also for PR purposes and other things, you would gain more by earning the CAE and then validating the other programs, at least in my opinion.
Right, and don't forget, this is Karen again, don't forget that if your CAE is expiring, if you're due to redesignate, you have to do that to keep your CAE designation. So same as Corinne's recommendation, I would recommend you do 1 program of study and then validate, or then go for your CAE designation.
Okay. So as you can see now, that walkthrough that we put on Insight is pretty good on explaining all this stuff. But basically you identify the program name and the program type. it is really important that you're clear on what these are, because a lot of the things that are in the application are drawing from that. And then you basically get access, which I would have shown you right here. You get access to these 4 items. So you see number 1, program of study curriculum, 2 is students, 3 faculty members, 4 continuous improvement. These are the 4 items that you provide information about, and they basically constitute the program of study validation. There are, sub items underneath there. But the one thing that is different that we haven't seen before is continuous improvement. The student and faculty member parts were pretty much taken out of the CAE application and moved into program of study. And then there's the curriculum. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is this is different. For those of you that have a CAE, there is no mapping of KUs as part of this. There is heavy reliance, though, on your accreditation information. And when I say accreditation, I mean your institutional regional accreditation. For instance, we are the Northwest, our accreditor is the Northwest Commission of Colleges and Universities. It's not ABET accreditation, although you can utilize a lot of those materials for your app. So the one thing I do recommend is you find out who your accreditation officer is at your college, because they may be able to help you locate some of this information that you need for the application. Okay. So the program of study curriculum basically is the program that you've already designated when you went in, the name of the program, and the curriculum that's part of that. Continuous improvement, it is a requirement for accreditation, for an institution's accreditation, to show some kind of continuous improvement process for your programs. You may not be familiar with this. If you're a community college and you have a program, there's other requirements also, especially for the workforce ones. But the bottom line is you need to be able to provide information about the process that your college follows to improve your program. And it's also reported in your, what happened here? In your accreditation report. Okay. So I'm going to stop. Are there any questions? Tasha, is there any questions in the chat?
There's a few questions, but I think Erin and I have answered them. So
Okay. Okay. So the first part is the knowledge units. So we're just going to do a brief review so everybody remembers what these are. So what are knowledge units? Okay, they are technology areas composed of a set of topics and outcomes. They're the link between the institution's validated program and the cybersecurity workforce. So I have a validated program and I'm claiming these people can do these things. And the courses I teach are lined up with these KUs that I have chosen. That's what it comes down to. As you can see, there are 3 types of knowledge units: foundational, core, and optional. Depending upon the level of the program, whether it's associates, bachelor's, etc., the number of knowledge units that you must align your program to is different. For associates, it's 11 knowledge units. For bachelor's, it's 22. Okay, now you see this foundational, core, technical, core, non-technical, and optional. Okay, so on our next page, well, not here, I have a resource. This is actually on the iad.gov website. This is the KU mapping matrix that lists all of the KUs, so it kind of gives you the big picture. But here, Remember, we just looked at the KUs. We had foundational, core, and optional. I have an associate's degree, let's say, that I'm going to validate as my program of study. From this picture, I must do the 3 foundational KUs. Everybody has to do the foundational KUs regardless of the type of program. Then, because my program is very technical, I'm going to choose the technical KUs. So as the 5 that I also will align to. This makes a total of 8. I have to do 11 total KUs. Since I've chosen the technical KUs, I can get my additional 3 KUs out of either the optional part or the non-technical core part, or a combination of those 2. Okay, do people understand what I'm saying? For a bachelor's, you would have 22. And so you would do the 3 foundational, then 5 technical, and then you need 14 additional KUs. You could do the 5 non-technical core KUs and then 9 optional, or you could do 14 optional, but the bottom line is you can utilize the other core type if you want to meet the KU requirement. Are there any questions about that?
Hey, I'm sorry, Corinne, this is Mike Morris again from WGU. Just to be clear, I know under the old program those KUs had to be in place for at least 3 years. Is that still the same?
No, it's not the KUs, it is the courses. The courses at your institution that are part of your program. The KUs are not
okay.
KUs are not classes. They're not classes. Okay. So let's see. I thought I saw something about the masters. Oh, let me go forward. Okay, now you're going to see on the right, you've got these dotted lines. Because the master's and doctoral programs also include a thesis or dissertation, you can take some of the KUs can be made up with those items. So I have a master's program, let's say. I either have to teach within the master's program the 3 foundational KUs, 5 technical or 5 non-technical KUs, core KUs, and then 7 optional KUs. The other 7 are made up by the thesis. I may have a master's degree that requires every student coming in to take an assessment exam. And that assessment exam covers the topics on those KUs. If that's the case, I provide that as evidence that the students have this knowledge when they come into the program. And I do not have to do the foundational and core KUs. Okay, now one thing I want to make clear, I've seen this over the past few years. We'll have master's programs where the person will say, well, every student coming in here has to have this knowledge. But then when I look on their website or I look at the program information, there's nothing in there. There's no statement, you must have taken these courses at this college in order to qualify, or there's nothing. If you don't have a formal way of evaluating each student coming into that program and you can verify that the knowledge they come in with meet those KUs, then you're going to have to show how you teach it in the program. Okay, so in other words, I can have a master's program where I'm just straight teaching all these KUs, and I have a dissertation. If that's the case, 7 KUs would count, I mean, not dissertation, thesis. If that's the case, 7 KUs would count, the thesis would count as 7 optional KUs. The other stuff would be taught in the program. Or I have a way to evaluate each student coming in and I can prove those students are meeting these KUs, so I don't have to be teaching that in my program. And then the same applies for the doctoral one, except you only need 3 optional KUs. Okay. Is that all clear to everyone?
I have a question, please. For the master's program, you said that if there is a master thesis or project, because there are some master's programs, they are asking students either to write a thesis or to work on a comprehensive project. You said that there will be 7 knowledge units mapped to the thesis. So how this can be aligned or mapped? Just once we have a thesis or we have a project, it means we have 7 knowledge units under our belt, or what?
It's or institutional equivalent. So the project would count as an institutional equivalent. You would, there's actually, unless we didn't do that this time, there's actually 7 KUs that you choose, you align to, that are for the thesis.
Yes, just to add to this, so in the tool itself, you would specify which course is the one that designates to that project or that thesis course. You will highlight that, point to it, and that will be counted. There is a checkbox to be counted if it's a graduate program. Obviously, if you when you start, make sure you identify your program as a graduate. Otherwise, that option would not be available for you during the tool KU area.
So once, because, okay, so once we check that box, it means, yeah, and we have a thesis and we have also the option for a project, but you know, the thesis cannot be, or sometimes it's not like aligned to specific knowledge unit because it's like a comprehensive thing.
No,
Students
yeah,
it's
that's
not,
okay.
Yeah, it's not supposed to align to a specific KU. It's aligned to the 7 KUs designated for this specific counting.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's aligned to a thesis KU.
Exactly, but you still need to provide evidence for what that course, either it's a project or a thesis course, is done, and document that it's well registered at the university. It's not just a project that someone thought about, that it's well documented in your program.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, everybody got this then? Let's see, do we have anything in there? Okay, all right, well, let's keep going. Okay, so.
Okay. Corrine, hold on, I'm sorry. There's one from Curtis Coleman. He asks if KUs can be pulled from technical and non-technical. I just wanted to let him know that you have to choose either all technical or non-technical KUs first. And once you satisfy that by saying that your KUs are in the technical track, you can choose from the opposite core to satisfy your optional KUs, if that makes sense.
Thank you. I had asked a question before she explained it, so I did get it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But thank you.
I'm trying to read through the.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, so now we got this straight. Everybody knows what we're doing. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Okay, the curriculum. Okay, so some of this is getting covered up, but anyhow, you list the program of study. Those courses must be identified in the current course catalog. The program of study, it contains courses that will be aligned to the KUs. Okay, I'm purposely not using the word map. We are not mapping KUs. So those of you that have experience doing mapping to KUs, we're not doing that. The courses must be mandatory for the students completing the program of study. In other words, you can't use an elective. The fallback would be, like, let's say you have a very small group of core courses part of your program. If you have a concentration, you could utilize that, but you would only be able to count the students that complete the concentration. And you would have to be have a way to differentiate those students. Okay. Provide evidence for showing the student enrollment in the program of study for the last 3 years. So a letter from the registrar or equivalent is enough. The number of students that have received a degree and completed the program of study within 1 year of submission, that can also be in the registrar's letter. at least 3 redacted student transcripts dated within the last 3 years. All courses used to align to the KUs must be present, and a sample certificate or notation on the transcript issued to students completing the program of study. Okay, so out of this list, the most important thing is if you nominate your program of study, it's, you know, computer science or something, but then you list the courses that align to the KUs, and one of those courses is not in the program of study that you want to validate, you would not qualify, you would be disqualified. So it's only the courses that are in that degree or program of study that can meet the align with the KUs. So is that clear? I mean, we kind of, it used to be people would pull from all parts of the school, but this was several years ago, and I think we've eliminated that problem. But I just want to make it clear, your program of study is what has to align to the KUs. Are there any questions about that?
Hi, Corinne. Sorry, this is Mike again. I'm sorry. Can you just real quick, maybe there's a spreadsheet or something that shows this. I'm used to the mapping process, mapping the KUs to the course. How is the alignment different? I just.
So we haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh, I'll be quiet. Sorry.
Okay, so the first step is to realize the courses in that program must be the ones that align. Okay, so everybody knows that. Good. All right.
One quick question, please. It says here courses must be mandatory. For example, if the program of study has some elective courses, and one of these courses is used to align to the knowledge unit or whatever. So in that case, should this course be considered, or we can tell the student, if you would like to be under the designation, you must take this elective course?
Do you have a way to differentiate those students? Is there something those students receive that nobody else receives? Or does everybody get the same degree?
Yeah, everybody gonna get the same degree.
Yeah, then see, the problem is you cannot claim that that program is validated because only some students in that program have actually completed the KUs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other? Can a program of study be a track within a larger degree program? Yes, as long as you have a way to differentiate those students. So the program itself cannot be, you can't claim that program's validated if only some of the students complete those courses. What if we have different concentrations under each degree program? The required courses would be different. That would be, we would have to address that outside of this workshop. But I would say the concentration would probably be where you would look to align to the KUs. So I'm going to move forward because I don't want to, like, the individual questions we can take at the end. So let's go on. All right. All right. So a lot of this is already familiar. So you provide the syllabi, and you highlight in the syllabus where the lab exercises and the week that those lab exercises are required. And you upload those as PDFs. The NICE framework crosswalk alignment, all you do here is identify which part of the NICE framework your program falls into. There is no evidence required. You're just making a statement. And so, and some people have been stressing out about this, thinking that they have to prove it. You don't have to prove it. So if you're not familiar with the workforce framework, it's in this NIST special publication. There's various databases around where you can actually look up the knowledge, skills, and abilities associated with specific work roles. But here, all you're identifying, I believe, is the category. Community colleges, you're typically in operate and maintain and protect and defend, although we've also seen them in other areas. So this is just something that you figure out because you know your program. And you just put that in here, you just type it in. That's it, you're done with that. Okay. Okay, now we're here about the alignment, knowledge unit alignment. So let's say I have 10 courses in my program. 5 of them are my technical courses that I say align with the KUs that I have chosen. So first of all, I provide a narrative explaining, describing the program of study and why I believe they align to these KUs. For instance, if I'm choosing an optional KU that centers around industrial control systems, security, or SCADA or something, I can say one of our aligned courses is an industrial control systems security course with these outcomes or something. So you need to identify the courses that are part of the alignment. No, this is not all the courses in your program. It's the courses that are aligned to the KUs. You must provide the learning outcomes for those KU aligned courses as documented in official academic institution documentation. What this means is these are not objectives. These are not something that a faculty member hopes to be able to do. These are the official outcomes associated with these courses. If there are multiple sections, you need to explain how you are coordinating on to make sure that all the sections are addressing the, if it's a KU aligned course, that they're all being taught pretty much the same way. And then like how they're being managed. So like the faculty meet at the beginning of the year? Is there, like with us, we create a Canvas course and then we share it with the other faculty. So anyhow, whatever you're doing to do that. And then provide the academic year each KU aligned course was last offered. So if you're starting this from scratch, the first thing to do is, take a look at your program. You already know if it's technical or not technical. Then take a look at the KUs and, figure out how am I going to meet the required number of KUs utilizing the options that we just went over. And then identify, from that, you should be able to identify which of the courses out of your program you're going to use to align to the KUs. Okay. Now, there's also one of the things you must provide is a curriculum map and assessment documentation. Okay, so in your accreditation, there needs to be a process in place at your school that shows how you are assessing for your program level learning outcomes. Okay, so we have 2 types of outcomes. We have our course outcomes, so what the student will be able to do at the end of this course. Then we have our program outcomes, what the student will be able to do when they complete this program. And what's being asked for here is how are you assessing for that? For the program level learning outcomes, what is the process to assess for each of the outcomes? So the requirements are to state the program level learning outcomes, documentation of the outcomes, evidence for the curriculum map and plan. And this term is you may have a different term for this, but basically it's what is the plan for assessing each of the outcomes? Are you doing one a year? What course are you doing it in? That kind of thing. And then how you're doing the assessment for those outcomes, and then the overall assessment information. So I'm hoping that this is familiar to everybody in this call, what I'm talking about here. If not, then you need to ask your department chair or your institutional, your accrediting officer at your institution for more information. Here's an example of a curriculum map and plan. First thing, no, you do not have to fill out this form. You provide whatever form or paper or document your institution uses for this. So here are the program level learning outcomes. I, R, and A indicate, where the topic's introduced, or an A is where it's formally assessed, where each learning outcome is introduced and assessed. So as you can see, the first outcome is assessed in the course ABC 145. It's introduced in ABC 140, but the assessment happens in 145, and that's in academic year 2019 to 20. This is what we would provide then as an example of our curriculum map and plan. So we have the map on the left and we have the plan on the right. So we have like ABC 145 is going to assess outcome 1, and they're going to assess it in 2019 and 20. So this would be an example of what a college could provide, but it is not where you go fill in some form. You use whatever your institution is using. Are there any questions about any of that? Okay. All right. So now we're on, this is another example. This is just an assessment report. So that program level learning outcome, this is the assessment for that. So this would be what we would submit. And this is just that particular college. So you may have something completely different, but you basically would just submit those that information with your application for each of the outcomes, program level outcomes. Okay. Now, here's an example of alignment. Okay, in the tool you actually choose, there's a lot of drop-down boxes and stuff, but in this case, the course outcomes for ABC 216, here we would list our outcomes. So what are the outcomes for the course that are on file at that college? Here we would list the KUs that we feel this course aligns to. And here we would list the KU outcomes. Okay, are there any questions about that? Okay, so
I do. I have a question, actually.
All right.
Thank you. This is Ann Kunke. So is there not a concern that maybe the course outcomes that I've listed do not match the KU outcomes or even coordinate?
No, there's no concern about that.
Okay.
Mainly because now your course outcomes may be a little more specific. Your program outcomes are typically going to be pretty broad. So there is no expectation you're going to have a word for word match. But like you can see here, those two outcomes, configure SCADA devices, I kind of pulled these KUs out of the air, and so whether they actually line up would be the question. But the bottom line is I should be able to see something in these course outcomes like describe network attacks. Okay, that's one of our outcomes in I think 110 that I could say lines up with some of the outcomes in this KU. They're not the exact words though.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Also, we did see a few schools actually try to change their outcomes to match the KU outcomes. Don't do that. We're utilizing whatever you're doing at your school. So that's the other thing I want to make sure everybody understands that, because one school put a lot of effort into that.
Corinne, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Maria Hamilton at Harrisburg Area Community College. The KU outcomes that we see here, those are in that Excel document. So is the process that I'm seeing right here, me getting the course outcomes for my classes and then grabbing the matching KU alignment and outcome from that spreadsheet and then pasting them into the tool?
Yair, do you remember, are these drop downs when they choose those KUs? Are
They type the acronyms, the 3-letter acronyms, and that pulls from the database. Those.
and it pulls the outcomes too?
No.
Okay.
Not at this point. But the outcomes are in the KU wiki.
Yeah, CyberEd Wiki. I mean, I had that in there as a resource, so we have to settle on which version. So we have that spreadsheet, which I showed earlier. I showed the link to it.
Right.
The benefit of using that is that it gives you a big picture view of where your courses fit into those outcomes. In the actual tool, yes, I believe you do paste the outcomes in.
And every section, just to add to it, every section has a justification option at the lower part. So I would recommend adding your justification when you do your table, since it's going to be inputted one by one. I would recommend to create a table for your school, how you align it. And we gave examples. So you can show how it is with your own the KU and the KU outcomes. So when the reviewers are looking at it, they can see what, based on what you had in hand.
In other words, you could explain. So every section in this tool includes a box where if you feel something needs to be explained, you can write that in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions about this? So let's kind of recap. I picked 5 courses out of my 10 that I say align to 11 KUs because I'm doing an associate's degree. Of those 11, 5 are the technical core, 3 are the foundational, and the other 3 are either electives or out of the non-technical core or from both. So I've already figured all this out before I'm in the tool. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of my course outcomes that are on file at the institution. Some schools, like our school, uses CurricuNet. Some schools have a very good, it's very easy to do. Other schools, I don't know, but somewhere in your institution, those outcomes are on file. I'm going to get all of those, so I'm ready to put that into the tool. So far, we're just talking about the courses that align to the KUs. Not all the courses in the program, just the courses that align to the KUs. Okay. Here's, Yair made this picture to kind of explain how all of this is supposed to work. The important thing is when you have a degree, you have a lot of courses in there. Not all of those courses are technical courses that are teaching cyber related topics. So the purple part is the courses in your program that are aligned with the KUs. The green part are the courses in your program that include program outcome assessment indicators. So when we looked at that curriculum map and plan, we had courses that where we were assessing for a program outcome. Those are not the same courses necessarily. So you may have some courses that are aligned with the KUs where you're not assessing for a program outcome in that course. I think that pretty much sums it up. Are there any questions about this? Anything in the chat? Because I can't really see that.
Hi, this is Maria again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
One remaining question I had. I have an elective class that we are planning to make it required with all this process, but it won't officially be, after it goes through all the academic processes and everything, fall 2021. Is that going to be okay?
So people that graduated from your program prior to that, not all of them completed that elective.
It's possible. We are in the process of making it a requirement, this semester.
But the course was in
Correct.
place for 3 years or more.
It's about 2 years old.
So by the time you actually, I don't know what cycle you're in, but by the time you validated the program, would you have 1 year of completers?
1 year, yes.
Well, then you should be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So let's move forward here.
Quick,
Yeah.
I have a question. We just recently realigned our curriculum, which is the current version for fall. We've had at least 3 years of the previous ones, but Cisco had changed their networking. Is that going to be an issue, or can we just explain that into a format paper?
Just explain it, because we had to do the same thing, and every community college that teaches Cisco had to do that. So yeah, just explain it, because you're still covering the same stuff. You're just not covering it in the same configuration.
Correct. Yeah, we just had students that had gone through Cisco 4, and now we only have Cisco 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
We're actually covering more, but yeah.
That's not the first time they've done that. So we've gone from 3 to 4 and then back to 3 again. So anyhow, all you have to do is just explain it. But the peer reviewers, there will be plenty of people that are familiar with those circumstances. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay. Previous. Yeah, okay. All right, so now we're going to move on to student enrollment and graduation. And so basically these are just statistics, which we already talked about, but your registrar or somebody provides a letter talking about the enrollment and graduation. Here's some advice: just write the letter for them and put in the table and just tell them what to fill in. It'll just make it a lot easier. And then at least 3 redacted student transcripts. Clearly highlight the courses taken that meet the program of study. You see the yellow there? That's because when we say highlight, we mean highlight it with a yellow marker or something so that the reviewers can actually find that. All courses with the KU alignment and those identified in the curriculum mapping must be present. So let's look at this sentence. The KU alignment courses may not, there will be some overlap, but they may not all be the ones used for assessing the program outcome. So all the courses that are used for the program level learning outcome assessment and the KU alignment must be present on those transcripts. Here's some advice. We've had schools where they want to use, I mean, I don't know why, but you should just pick transcripts that are just straight. The students took all the classes there. They didn't transfer in anything or anything like, just don't introduce a lot of variables. Remember, there's always a box to explain anything. No. All right. Do the transcripts need the official university seal or will unofficial work? I believe it's okay to do unofficial. I mean, you're going to be uploading these as a PDF. Oh, Yair, official from your registrar's office. Yeah, you're right, Yair. Okay.
These needs to be scanned so you can
Yeah.
pull internally from your registrar office, scanned, remove the names of the students, and then highlight on top of that.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. All right. Student work products. Samples of student work products 6 individual students from at least 2 KU aligned courses. Include guidelines given to the students. So when they say guidelines, they mean what was the assignment? Was it a lab? Was it, you know, what were the students told to do? And this is because in the past, people would submit the student work, but nobody knew what the assignment was. So you didn't really, it was kind of like we're missing a piece here. And that includes papers, assignments, projects, presentations, lab exercises, test questions. Please remove the student name prior to submission. Student extracurricular activities. Evidence of participation, at least 3 students participation, and then examples are competitions, outreach to the community, internships, etc. Okay, so this is part 2 of the program of study validation. I mean, number 2. Here's number 3 for the program of study. See this first line, the CAE program will rely upon the institutional accreditation process to determine the correct credentials to be a faculty member. In other words, your institution is the one deciding whether your faculty members are qualified to teach. Some of your faculty members need to be full-time, but the remainder can be adjuncts. So for this number 3, you identify the point of contact for the program of study, identify the alternate point of contact. One thing I want to say about the point of contact, this is not like some kind of an honor. It means that you're the person that the NSA will be contacting. And also when there's like events and other things, you're the one, that person will be the one that's receiving that information. So you want to make sure the point of contact is somebody who's going to actually act on that. So CV or resume for each faculty member, and then evidence of participation or sponsorship in exercises and competitions. And then evidence of institutional process for faculty promotion reappointment. This is another thing out of your accreditation documentation. So how does your institution reappoint faculty or promote them or whatever? Okay, any questions about that? Anything in chat? Okay. All right, so this is number 3. So here's the last part, number 4, for program of study, and this is continuous improvement. So continuous improvement plan, continuous improvement process, documentation of the regular evaluation schedule. Does anybody know what this is?
I believe I do.
All right, very good. So we've already covered some of this, right? So basically number 4 is the stuff that we already looked at, the curriculum map, the what's being done to keep the program refreshed, you know, the continuous improvement plan, that type of thing. So that was basically all that's in the program of study. So as you can see, this is not too hard. There is some materials you do have to gather, but it's not nearly as bad as the mapping. Okay, do we have any questions about this? Here is the submission cycle again. And so people in the first cycle should know by March 26th if they passed or not.
I have a quick question. So for our program, we review our programs every 5 years. Do you want me to describe that process or provide one of the documents?
I would provide one of the documents, and I always do overkill, so I usually just explain what the document is, you know. So I would explain, we do our processes every 5 years. Attached, please find a document explaining that or something.
All right, thank you.
Green, would that suffice for continuous improvement? Is that what you're saying?
If this is what your institution does and you do have regional accreditation, then yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can we also use our ABET accreditation and our self-study for that?
You can use those materials, yes. You know, the ultimate, you know, I'm assuming your ABET accreditation is in line with your university's, like you don't have different outcomes, right?
Correct, correct.
Yeah, so as long as everything's in line, yes, you can draw on your ABET accreditation. Okay, so I think, let's see. Oh, good, we have a break. So anyhow, okay, so we have a 15-minute break. This thing only goes for another 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So we're only going, okay. I think the second part's kind of short, right?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so do you guys, you want me to keep going? I can keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Well, it's kind of like,
if you're okay.
Keep going.
So far my power is holding up and I'm kind of getting used to sitting in this car, so okay. All right, so we're gonna,
do you have enough gas?
It's electric, man. This car is electric, battery operated. So we did charge it up. I don't know, before the power went out, I don't know how much is left on the battery. So I'm hoping if I disappear, Yair's standing by, so we'll be okay.
I'm here.
Yes. Okay. All right, so now we're going to move on to the CAE. Okay. Here are the requirements for the CAE as outlined in the tool. And so, you know, still got to fix a few things up because those last four need their numbering. But basically, this is much simpler. I actually think this is easier than the program of study. I could be wrong. Yair, maybe you could.
No, it's easy.
Yeah, it's easier. It's easier.
Phones before CAE, and this is easier.
Yeah, and this is really pretty straightforward. So basically, once you've received your validation, this tab will appear to you, the CAE designation tab. You then go in there and you just start each thing and provide the information. So the academic institution must be regionally accredited. You basically provide the URL at this opeed.gov. You look up your college and then you just put in the link to show who you're accredited by. Okay, so that's pretty easy. However, my hope is you don't run into some kind of surprise, but you might want to look that up before you even start. Okay, then there's the letter of intent, which was signed for us. It was the college president, but it should be the provost or higher. And basically it's, you know, they identify their accreditation information, express their institutional commitment, provide the support of the official cyber quote center within the institution, identify the CAE point of contact, and list the program of study supporting the requested designation. This is the validated program of study or studies. My advice to you is to write a draft letter. Okay, and so even in the pilot, we've seen some letters that, like for instance, the point of contact that's in the letter is not the same point of contact listed in the CAE. Okay, so you've got to make sure that all of these elements are there. And this part about the program of study, don't list programs of study that have not been validated. And then it's pretty straightforward. The quote in the center, the reason it's in quotes is this is not a center as one like the Board of Trustees established with your name on it. This is a center such as I have a location in this building. I have a website where I post all this information. That is my cybersecurity center. Okay. Any questions about any of this? This is all pretty straightforward, but you do want to make sure all of those elements on official letterhead. Also, this is something that you would want to do sooner rather than later, because for one thing, it may take a while to get the signature. For another thing, you want to make sure that everybody's on board with your pursuit of the CAE. So you don't want to find out after you've done all the work that they don't think it's a good idea to go forward.
So the center, for example, it can be virtual center. So because we have a virtual center, but we don't have a physical location, is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Yep. Okay. Any other questions about that?
And the accreditation can be institutional accreditation, not the program accreditation, correct?
Yes. By regional accreditation, we mean the institutional accreditation. Okay. Also, they want you to provide acknowledgement of the minimum participation expectations. So this is good that we're talking about this now. What happens after you get the CAE? You don't just disappear. Basically, there's a requirement to submit an annual report with all the required information. We're working on making this like a survey that comes out. Attendance at either or both of these two meetings, the CAE Principals Meeting and the CAE Community Symposium each year. Regular communication with the program office. Active participation in the CAE community and support of the program. So when you designate, one of the questions is, how have you participated in the CAE community? I think that's in the survey. I can't remember, but anyhow, one of the ways that you can participate in the CAE community is acting as a mentor or a reviewer, or you know, helping out in other areas. So we have like a army of people that serve as mentors and advisors and peer reviewers that all come from CAE colleges. And that would be, not only does that benefit the community, but it also benefits you, because you can put that down as evidence of your participation in the CAE community. Okay, but all of that stuff goes in the letter. Participation in this workshop, you're participating in the CAE community. So for you new colleges that are applying, this is something you could put down. Okay. All right. For the cybersecurity posture and plan, now in the past, you had to actually provide the institutional security plan. You do not need to do that now. You have a letter attesting that the institution has a security plan in place. So this is one change. Also, the name, title, and job description of the information security officer at your institution. If you don't know these things, typically it's either the IT or your vice president for business or something like that at your college would be who could give you that information. And then evidence of at least 6 security practices. So like awareness training, tutorials for faculty, staff, and students. Like an easy one is if you get email from IT that are alerting you to some scam email, you could include that. But anyhow, just examples of how this is actually being implemented. Does the letter have to come from a security officer? No. Basically, at least in our case, the letter came from the vice president who supervised the security officer. I didn't actually ask for the letter from the security officer. So this is a statement attesting that we have a security officer. Here's the title, the name, title, and job description for that position. So it would be somebody that could officially state this, maybe even HR. Okay. So Curtis, I think it's very good that you've been heavily involved in industry-focused conferences, and you should include that. Let's see, we have one other thing up here. We have 2 campuses which may be providing programs of study, but 1 higher leadership. It should come from the leadership that's overseeing those 2 campuses. I don't know what that is. The president, or I don't know. Okay. All right, let's go forward. Here's the center part. Either physical or virtual, but an officially established entity. So the center website, this is important, is visible within the institution and the external community at large. The center point of contact is noted on that website. Information about and link to the program page of the validated programs of study, faculty members, and links to student cybersecurity activities available to students at the institution and beyond. And so, for instance, at our college, we have it on the front page in the one of the drop downs on the front. And so, and it actually is visible to the community because I get calls every once in a while from the community asking for help. Like sometimes it's businesses. The last one was every device in her house was infected, including their, I forgot what the doorbell thing is called. But anyways, and she said, kept telling me she wasn't crazy. She wasn't, I said, look, I know you're not crazy, okay? But she was looking for help. And so she called called my number. So I know it's visible from externally. So anyhow, you have to ensure that. We've had schools where they haven't had very much support at the institution, and they've tried to get like we had one school that actually created a .com and called that their center. Okay, to be clear, this website must be recognized by your institution. It can't be something you just make up somewhere and call it. Okay.
Hey, Corinne, I got a quick question. We have a site that we share with ISU, the Iowa State University. It's kind of a collaborated cyber defense page that we use that advertises both programs. Is that acceptable, or do we have to have our own center? I mean, we have our own website for the program, but we also have the external site that we use for community outreach, et cetera, et cetera.
Does that website point to your program of study?
It does. It does to both ISU and DMAC.
I think that would be fine. Karen, do you have any feedback on that? It sounds okay to me.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. That's all right. Just as long as your program is also linked to that site, that's fine.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, and so here are some of the other requirements like internal and external cybersecurity news, institutional security resources, up-to-date links to key cybersecurity resources like cyber competitions, and documentation on the industry advisory board. Okay, so there is an expectation that your center has an industry advisory board. Community colleges, typically your program must have an advisory committee. So you can utilize that. Most schools are utilizing that for this also. For universities, it may be that you need to line some people up as an industry advisory committee. So they would provide input into your program, you know, like what's needed in the workplace and things like that. If you don't have that right now, I would work on getting that. It's good for your program anyways. So let's see, what do we have in the chat? Can we count the professional advisory board? Yeah, we have for the program of study. Yes, you can, as long as you have some cyber and are giving input into the cybersecurity center, whatever you were calling that at your school. Okay. Okay, affirmation of the CAE core values. So this is like a checkbox, where you just check, I affirm that I agree with all this stuff. And here's the list of stuff. So, and that is also in the tool, so you can read it there. You probably want to read that, because if you don't agree, then it's probably, that's the end of the story. But so you don't have to do anything here except just check the box. Okay, sustainability. Yes, Cynthia, I understand that. It should be called the Industry Advisory Committee. You're right, a lot of people have trouble with the word board. So it has a special meaning. So if you're calling it a committee, that's perfectly fine. Okay, sustainability. So this means if you disappear, will the program live on? So are there full-time permanent people there that can be contacted? So the they want the resumes for the administrative head of the established Center for Cybersecurity, the primary point of contact, the alternate point of contact, and faculty members. Keep in mind, you know, like most likely, well, it's pretty likely somebody from the program of study is also going to be one of these people. So it's not like we need 10 different people. A person can occupy multiple roles, but you do have to provide all of these different this contact information so that the NSA can contact somebody at your school if needed. Okay.
Can I ask a really crazy question?
Yeah.
We no longer have university phones at our school. They got rid of them all for cost savings. Am I to list my Google Voice number that goes to my cell phone then, or what?
Nobody has a phone at your school?
Only the dean's secretary, and others, but no faculty members have phones anymore.
Well, Karen, what would you like them to do?
Well, I guess list whatever phone number that would, so that we can reach you. Like if we have to call you for some reason.
I mean, I do have a Google Voice number that forwards to my cell phone, so I could do that.
Okay, that works. That just in case we need to get in touch with you for some reason.
I know, it's like I said, it's a weird question.
Okay, then professional development. So just a list of the professional development opportunities provided to faculty and students over the past 3 years. So 6 separate examples. That shouldn't be too hard to come by. Keep in mind, like for instance, I'm also doing the Insight Center, and we have funded faculty to go to NICE, 3CS. There's opportunity there to attend different conferences and so on. We've also funded students to go to the Women in Cybersecurity conference. So anyhow, the bottom line is you have to provide 6 separate examples. And this may be just, there was some event in your town that the students went to. It doesn't have to be they traveled across the country to DEF CON or something like that. Okay.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
These the events that are held by the college, like from our own departments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you do like, if you're doing like a resume writing, yeah, stuff like that.
I have a question. I have a question, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear
Oh,
you.
This
Okay.
is Frank Salinas, South Texas College. What about recently, for example, I have membership with companies like Paraben, for example, Paraben Corporation. So Paraben, because I've been a member, academic member with them for the last 5-6 years, they gave me a few passes for our students to attend their digital forensics conference this month, actually. Would that count?
Yeah, that would count.
Because it was online. Usually they host it like in the last time that I went to their conference was in Utah. But this time around, because of the COVID, I mean, it's online. The PFIC conference, it was online. So they gave me a pass for myself, and they gave me 3 passes for our students. So can I use that?
Yes, that would count.
Okay, because it was a full-blown conference, but you know how conferences nowadays are online.
Yeah, they're all online, so that doesn't disqualify anybody.
So
okay, all right.
Excuse me, I would like to follow up on this question. So I have also similar case, and they gave us like 10 passes for the same conference. So these will be counted as one example, or that can be counted as 10 examples.
Hello, am I still there?
Hello.
Yes,
again.
we can hear you, Corinne. The example,
Okay, all right.
One.
Yeah, that's considered one
example, and
yes.
and you need to provide evidence for that. So maybe an email exchange with the company. So you need to state what the event is, and maybe a sanitized email if you want, or some other evidence that happened.
Okay, so it's still one example. It cannot be counted as 10.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, would that apply for the same thing for like EC Council, where they go through and, like, as an instructor, you can choose any of the courses that you want to learn, and they actually provide the training for you, but it's self-paced. Is that considered just one separate, even though it's the EC Council events?
Are you talking about taking an EC Council course, like?
Right.
And taking like A+, and then, or no, like
Certified Ethical Hacker.
Certified Ethical Hacker, and then taking another, to me, those are 2 separate things.
Okay.
Just because it's one vendor, I mean, yeah.
The Francisco Salinas again with South Texas College. Yeah, now that he mentioned that, EC Council, that is correct. Actually, with EC Council, we have the academic partnership as well here at STC, and what they do every year, we qualify for a free scholarship for faculty. So that means it's a free training plus a certification with AC Council. So
yeah,
that
so you would count, right? That would count as one, but if you're taking multiple courses, I would say each course counts as one.
Yes, it's multiple courses. I know that they started us with the certified secure computer user, and then this year they gave me one for one of my faculty members full-time. And they gave them the certified network defender certification. Free scholarships because we're part of the academic program for EC Council.
Okay, would students competing in NCL? Yes, I think that would qualify. Do virtual professional development activities count? Yes, they do, because nobody's going anywhere. So this is not a really strict, narrow definition. So, I mean, you don't have to worry if it's virtual, as long as, I mean, really, what's the point of professional development? You're learning something, or you're improving somewhere, or something like that. And if you can show this was an opportunity for, especially for the students, even doesn't necessarily have to be, here's how to use NetLab. It can be, here's how to write your resume and interview for a job. I mean, I would count that myself. So this should not be too hard. And I don't know what number this is in the thing, but okay, then demonstrate that cybersecurity is integrated into additional degree programs within the institution. So this means, and you know that you have in other parts of your institution courses that are addressing cybersecurity issues. For instance, in your business courses, your political science, criminal justice. And so basically, and your health programs. So get 3 different syllabi with the course name and the cyber modules clearly highlighted. And provide that. Combine the syllabus, guidelines for the work, and 1 sample student work into a single file. So we're expecting that you provide the syllabus and 1 example student work for each course. So this is kind of a good thing because you can get out from where you're at. But basically, other parts of your institution identify courses outside of your program of study that have a cyber content. Also, they may say we have a cyber content, but it has to be in the syllabus. Okay. Outreach. The institution must demonstrate how cyber defense practices are extended beyond the institution. So this is outreach to K through 12 community colleges and universities, and or specialized areas in there. So has the institution participated in CAE events like the symposium, workshops, tech talks, etc.? Collaborations on grants. For new colleges, it may be that no, you haven't because you're not a CAE, but there are things that center around that, like this workshop that you can count. The institution has contributed to the CAE community. Example is serving as an advisor, mentor, or reviewer for this process, but there are plenty of other activities going on in the CAE community that you could participate in. And so these then outreach to K-12 schools, community colleges, universities, etc. If you have a really, like our programs pretty strong, and so we have done a lot of outreach to like we did Girl Scout Badge Day. We have a thing for middle school girls. We have we've run cyber camps. We ran long before Gen Cyber. We have little workshops we do for like 3rd graders. They bring them in for an hour or so, and so we have all of that as evidence. We also send faculty out to speak and things like that. So I don't think this will be too hard for most people. Are there any questions about this? Okay.
And we use the career fairs because we go to career fairs at the high schools, middle schools. Does that count?
Yeah, that would be outreach. Okay, and then here's some other examples: collaborating with current CAEs, sponsorship or oversight of students for cyber events, how the institution works with employers to get student placement, evidence of obtaining input on curriculum to meet industry needs. So those are some of the things that you could use. Okay, transfer of credit articulation agreement. Okay, so articulation agreements in the past meant it was a contract between your institution and another institution to accept credits from a program, and also an agreement to any changes. You would notify the other institution and so on. But there are other types.
Looks like she might be trying to.
She was dropped completely.
Yeah.
Okay. So part of the discussion was about the other programs from other schools or colleges. And the idea is that they teach, so it doesn't have to be a complete course, by the way. All that this requirement is asking for is a portion of the course, a session. So if, for example, in my school, we have a law school that is teaching part of some of their law curriculum. They have within one of their classes a session about cyber law and digital forensics. So that can qualify. Another example we have, so we have a medical school. So I reached out, my dean actually connected me with the dean of the medical school, who helped me identify potential courses. And then from there, we identified one example from the healthcare, where students are learning about HIPAA and other requirements on security controls for healthcare field. So that helped us, pull that, and it also helped you within the university or college or institution to, become more of, makes your center more visible. So internally. Now, in terms of transfer of credit and articulation agreement, what this is basically the same as what we had before. Those of you who are redesignating, you're going to see that some of the CAE requirements, CAE designation requirements, some of them remain the same. Some got to be a little bit easier, I think. But in this case, the transfer of credit is something we had before. So any articulation agreements, most state schools have those with community colleges. If you don't, there are other means of demonstrating that you have an agreement with other schools on transfer of credit. By the way, I just want to mention that the document itself, the requirements document that was sent as part of the invitation for the meeting, and also is still draft. There are tweaks being done, but there are more details on each and every bullet item in here, including examples. So we've tried to be as precise as we can. We had a committee of about 40 people who worked on that area. So
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, here you go. Go ahead.
Sorry, everybody, for that brief interruption. Okay, so who's sharing this thing?
I think you were sharing, and then because you were dropped, Stefan took over. But go ahead and share while you're sharing.
Stephen, can you just...
Go ahead.
I can share again.
Stephen, can you... Yeah, just share it. Yair, you were saying?
Yeah, Tom asked a question in here. Does transfer articulation require transfer to a cybersecurity bachelorette? I lost the chat. Requires. Oh. So the point is that you demonstrate that some of the courses in your program are, you have an agreement with other colleges or schools, right?
Yeah, so what I was going to say about that, there are other types of articulation agreements besides one-to-one. A good example is Western Governors University, who's on here, who accepts any IT related, I think it's IT related degree, at least in the state of Washington. Also, our bachelor's program at our school is any IT related degree in Washington state. They have a pathway into our 4-year degree. So it's not a one-to-one. So there are examples of either a letter or a statement on the website of the institution the students are transferring to that you can utilize. So don't just narrow it down to an articulation agreement, which people do have, still have, but there are other examples.
I've got an oddball question on this. We actually just started a bachelor's at a community college. But
yeah, that's what we have.
We're actually in the middle of articulation, but all the articulation agreements at this point are other community colleges articulating into our BAP program.
That's fine.
Okay.
They have a pathway to a 4-year degree.
Exactly.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because we're actually just getting our associates done first as our program of study and going from there. And then we'll go back because the BAP doesn't have 3 years yet.
Yeah, that's what our bachelor's just now reached. This is the 3rd year of graduates.
Okay.
So we're in the same boat. We have a bachelor's degree. We're a community college. What this comes down to is, are there opportunities for students to move from one institution to another? This includes high school. And one way to ensure that is with your articulation agreements, but there are others besides the classic one-to-one college or institution-to-institution agreement. That's what I'm trying to point out. As long as you can show there is a pathway and you have something in writing stating that, it can be all eligible students or any student in Washington State with an IT related degree and a 2.0 or above. I can't remember what it says, but we have that on our website and in our catalog. And so that's what we could use that. What's being done with high schools. Like an example, for many years, we would grant 3 credits in our program to students that completed one of our cyber camps. And so that is actually a pathway right into the 2-year degree, but there's other things also. So is there, like a lot of the high schools now may have A+ or something. Do they earn credit in your program for a course they completed in their high school? Another example would be the AP courses, CSP or computer science that line up with your computer science 1 if that's part of your program. So those are some examples.
I have a quick question. Does the high school have to be statewide? Because currently we have a regional around the Des Moines area for a CTE Career Academy.
It doesn't. It can be the high school next door. It doesn't have to be big. It's just some students somewhere in a high school have an opportunity to transfer into a program, a pathway into cyber.
Okay, yeah, because we haven't finished our Career Academy online one to reach the region or beyond the regional part yet. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah. So I think the point I'm trying to make is this is for everybody. So you may be in a big city where you've got, 500 high schools and there's some citywide agreement, or you may be in some rural area where there's only one high school within 40 miles. And as long as there's a pathway that exists for some students somewhere, you're meeting this requirement. Okay.
So that includes because for example, at South Texas College, we have cybersecurity academies already at the high schools.
And do they earn credit or?
Yes, sir. They earn the same credits as our SEC students. So by the time they graduate with the high school diploma, we start them when they are juniors at the high school. They take the first 4 courses, which is 16 credits. And then when they become seniors, they take the other 16. So by the time they finish with the high school diploma, they already have 32 credits of cyber, all technical courses, and they graduate with a certificate in cybersecurity. So they transition to the college and they finish the associates.
Okay, well, that's a perfect example then of what you would use here.
I have a quick question, please. Okay, for a master's program, because it's not like coming directly from high school to be applied to our master program, the student has to have like a bachelor's degree. What we should do in this case with high school transfer of credit?
It doesn't have, you don't have to hit all of it. It doesn't have to be, you've got to have articulation with high school. You got to have there's, do you do any kind of outreach to high schools?
Yes, we have summer camps that we are doing for high schools.
Yeah, so that would be, so that's to facilitate awareness. So this is to make them aware of the career, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you would put that in there.
Okay, thank you.
It's not necessarily a transfer credit, but it is career awareness.
Yeah, and for 4-year schools and for those that have master's, undergraduate and master's programs, it can be transfer credits from community colleges or technical schools. It doesn't have to be high schools. High schools we had in there mainly for the associates programs, kids coming in from high school. But we realized that there are some that go into a 4-year school also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So let's move on. Okay, is this the end? Did I just skip one?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay, post-designation reporting requirements. So you must update your qualifying information annually and must formally renew the designation every 5 years. And so there will be a survey, it's the annual report, that asks questions about the students, the demographics, the number of graduates, and other things that you must provide. There are some colleges that have been ignoring this, and there are consequences to that if you don't do this thing. So this is why they need all this contact information. And it's important to know that it doesn't end when you get the CAE. So there are these requirements. It can impact your ability to get like a grant if you're not on time with these things. So that's just to make you aware. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here are additional resources. So these are the 3 websites that we have mentioned in this workshop. And so the NSA website, where all the official documentation is the iad.gov. Then there's the CAE community website, and then there's the National Cybersecurity Training and Education Center, insight.net. And I think, let's see, I think this is it. Oops. Oh, and here's our contact information. So if you have any questions about anything we've discussed, you can email us. And I don't know what's happening here, but it went to the next screen. So we also have a Survey Monkey for you to fill out about this workshop. And I think that this is probably it. So are there any questions from anybody?
Sir, is there any way to go back to the previous slide? I didn't get to take a screenshot of the contact information.
And can we get a copy of the slides and the presentation?
So we're posting this on the Insight Center website. So you can watch it 200 times if you want. I'm
probably will. We probably will.
We also, keep in mind, we also have a recording, a 7-minute recording on how to use the tool. And then I'm going to take this workshop and just take the pertinent parts and make a narrated PowerPoint parts of it, so you can just watch the part you're interested in, so you don't have to go through this again. But we also will put the recording up there.
Perfect, thanks. Can you go back one slide also to check the websites, so while we get this, we can start looking at that info?
Fran?
Yeah?
This is jumping way ahead, but when the 5 years is up, is to be redesignated, does it involve both of the steps, the whole process, or is it a faster track when you redesignate?
The hope is, the way we're designing the survey, that the information you're providing in the annual report would populate your next app. Okay, so in other words, you would not have to jump through as many hoops, but we haven't really addressed that yet. So, but the plan is that the redesignating doesn't mean you just apply again. It should be a shorter way to just keep your designation, but we haven't worked that out yet.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, do we have any other questions?
Thank you for all the information. We really appreciate it.
Okay, and thank you, everybody. And I look forward to working with you in the future. And if you have any questions, you can just email that email address that we put up. And here's the survey for the Survey Monkey. We'd appreciate if you would do that. So if there's nothing else, then I guess we're done. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Excellent presentation, Corinne.
Hey, thanks for jumping in there. I appreciate that. This has been some morning, I gotta say.
Wow, I can tell. Wow. Excellent job. Thank you again.
All right. Well, we'll see you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.